UNC fans, listen up. North Carolina fans, listen up. Tar Heel faithful, listen up. Your basketball team did exactly what I wanted them to do last night. Exactly what I wanted them to do against Louisville. We talked about it yesterday. I put my request out, right? Like a Venmo request. I sent it over. I said, hey, here's what I want from you tonight. And they said, got it, paid it up, settled, moved on. The first time I checked the box score in the UNC Louisville game, I was watching the game, right? First time, because I've said this before, I'm a nerd. I'm like a multi-screen same game guy. If there's only one game I'm watching, I have the game on the TV, I have the box score up in front of me on the computer. I may even be checking Twitter on the phone or in another tab to make sure I'm staying up on the discourse. And I'm watching the game. The first time I checked the box score, first time I brought my computer up to see like how everybody's totaled up, it was 26-11. UNC was ahead by 15. It wasn't even halfway through the first half. So, to speak in other terms, it was somewhere near the end of the first quarter, right? If you're breaking up the half into quarters. Armando Bacot had 8. RJ Davis had 8. Harrison Ingram had 3 assists. And I went, that is exactly what I wanted from this team. I wanted them to show up against Louisville, not expecting to roll the ball out there and say, you stink, you're Louisville, I'm awesome, I'm UNC, we're going to win by a bunch.
With how quickly North Carolina players were getting up and down the court, you would have thought they were wearing shoes from the Good Feet store, which this hour on 999 The Fan is brought to you by. Life is too short to live with foot, knee, or back pain. Schedule an appointment for help at goodfeet.com. Had to make sure I got that endorsement in there.
There we go. And right from the beginning, those 3 guys, right? Bacot, Davis, Ingram. And Ingram's always going to impact the game differently, right? 8 points from Bacot, 8 points from Davis. That's traditionally, you can expect it. And then the jack of all trades impact from Ingram. The tone was set. The team shot it well from 3. They were efficient shooting it overall. Their defense showed up when it needed to. I was like, all right, cool. This looks like a top 4 team playing against an overmatched team in the ACC. Did they take their foot off the gas a bit in the second half and let the lead, which it bloomed up to around 20, close down to 5? Yes, they did. Here's Hubert Davis, their head coach, when asked after the game how it got to 55-50 at one point in the second half.
Well, I know how it got to 55-50. We weren't playing any defense. We were in the huddle. I told them, I said, they're shooting 90% from the field. I said, it's hard to do that by yourself in the gym with nobody guarding you. I said, this is the reason why they're in this position is because our lack of commitment on the defensive end. I said, if you want things to change, then we're going to have to defend. We're going to defend without fouling. We're going to have to rebound the basketball. But one of the things that I always tell the team is, whether something good or bad happens, the only thing you really have control over is how you react and how you respond. And so when they cut it to 5, I loved how we reacted and how we responded. We got stops. We didn't put them on the free throw line. We rebounded the basketball. We got good shots on the offensive end, got to the free throw line, got into the penalty, and we played the type of basketball that got us the 18-point lead in the first half, and then we were able to extend the lead and come away with the win.
I obviously, if you're in a utopia, right? If you're getting everything you wish that once the lead got up to around 20, it would have just stayed there and it wouldn't have closed. But your second best wish would be if it closes down to 5, you want UNC to react exactly how they did. Lead close to 5 in the second half, and then you're watching the game and it's just UNC bucket, stop. UNC bucket, stop. UNC gets stopped. Louisville gets stopped. It ended up being roughly 5 minutes until Louisville scored again after closing the lead to 5. That's them leaning on what got them there, their defense. That's whoever's out there on the floor buying into, all right, if you're going to flip a switch, you can always expect that to be easier on defense. It's much more difficult to say, okay, now I'm going to start making shots. It's like, well, yeah, heck, even on a good day, sometimes you're missing shots. It's much easier to say, okay, now I'm going to put in a ton of effort on the boards and playing defense. I'm going to limit possessions. I'm going to work harder. And that's what they did, and they ended up winning comfortably. UNC checked all of the boxes I wanted to see from them last night. And to be completely honest, Louisville's not the biggest threat to them in the ACC, and I'm saying that with a ton of sarcasm. They're near the bottom, if not at the bottom of the ACC. So you would expect them to pass the test, but anytime you're depending on 19 through 23, 24-year-olds, it's not always, oh, they should beat them, so they will. I think Hubert Davis deserves a lot of credit for what he's getting out of UNC this year. As a coach, he is pushing the right buttons. He is making sure they are prepared going into games, and even that is getting better as the season goes along. A few times early in the season, it's like, wow, I'm not sure they were ready at the tip. Then it's like, all right, they're getting better, until they're up against a team like Louisville, who, I mean, quite frankly, elicits no excitement, right? You always hear, after a big game or a rivalry game or a game against a team that was picked to finish first in the conference, what do coaches and players say? We had this one circled on the calendar. They would never say that before the game, right? Unless it's super obvious, like a Duke UNC game or something like that. But after a big game, they'll say, "Oh, we've had this one circled since when they beat us last year." But the flip side of that coin is true, right? True also, right? And what I mean by that is, if certain games are circled, certain games aren't circled. And Louisville was probably the most uncircled game in the ACC schedule for UNC. There's no reason to circle that game. Yet they still came out and were ahead by 15 just a couple minutes into the game. They still took it seriously, even with the little lapse in the second half. They still came out on top comfortably. Their best players were the ones setting the tone. It wasn't, Louisville, I'll let my youngins handle that. Right? Armando Bacot didn't come out and say, Louisville, I'll let the transfers handle that. I'll chill. No, he came out and he said, let me get mine quick. Let me set the tone. RJ Davis, same thing. Harrison Ingram, same thing. Elliot Cadeau, dunking on people, or at least side of people. Fast break, Cadeau with a big dunk. That's a freshman trying to express himself. You can use games like Louisville for that. This was 8-9 minutes, however it's long, of me praising UNC, and that's because it's earned. That's because it is earned. There were times we had to be honest with them. This isn't one of those times. This is one where the coaching staff, talking about Hubert Davis doing a good job keeping their minds in the right spot, this is one where today in film, Hubert Davis better have some lowlights, right? Bill Belichick, who's we'll talk about later, got a second interview with Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons. He's notorious for, I think they called it Tell the Truth Tuesdays, which is basically no matter how well they played on Sunday, team meeting Tuesday, everybody in the meeting room, they played lowlights, right? And they'd play a bad throw by Tom Brady and say, hey, Foxborough High School's quarterback could have made this throw, but our, all-world, all-everything quarterback can't. This is one where it's like you played well against Louisville, but they better show up with all those defensive lapses and all the lack of effort plays that led to the 55-50 score in the second half, because you got to keep this team on their toes. You got to keep them motivated. But overall, really, really good game. I was really, really impressed.